king. What are we going to do today?
Sing a song, a sad, sad song.
It's the winning king. It can purr. We're doing the album. It's called
The Cheerful Insanity of Giles, Giles and Fripp.
Yeah. So the Cheerful Insanity of Giles, Giles and Fripp. I thought this would be a great one to do. I think it was a good idea. Do you think it was a good idea?
I think it was a good idea.
An amusing album. So Giles and Giles, of course, Peter Giles and Michael Giles. Michael Giles from King Crimson. Peter Giles from one album of King Crimson on the bass. They were in a Bournemouth band called Trendsetters Limited. Semi-pro, etc. etc. There's a song called Nightmares in Red, which is quite interesting. But that sort of fell apart, and at that point they decided to get a bit more serious. They advertised for a singing organist. So Robert Fripp applied, being someone who doesn't sing and plays guitar. Robert Fripp, what he says is, he could play rock at 11, classical at 13, and jazz at 15, which I think is disingenuous really, because what everybody says and what he says is that he couldn't really naturally play any of those things, so he had to invent his own thing. Gordon Haskell, he overcame his inability to be a natural musician by inventing something of his own. Because Gordon Haskell was a childhood friend. He also knew Greg Lake and John Wenton as well, so they're all from around there. Their accents are different, which is really strange. So John Wenton and to a certain extent Greg Lake are a lot posher. It might be a class thing, I don't know. In that Fripp sounds like he's from Dorset.
Yeah.
But John Wenton is ever so posh. Hello. I mean, some people lose those accents over time. So that's interesting. So yeah, it's silly, kitsch, 60s pop songs. I mean, I've heard people say Python-esque. Of course it's not Python-esque, it's long before Monty Python. To say it was Goon-esque would give it too much credit in a way, but it's that kind of thing. There's the wonderful humour to it, very British. But we say 60s kitsch, but it certainly wasn't part of the 60s scene or anything like that. Apparently you had to have money to do that, and you had to be in London. Apparently Keith Moon did a review of it and didn't like it, which is really interesting because, of course, famously Pete Townsend has called In the Court a masterpiece a year later, so that's really strange. Everyone says, well, it's really surprising, and after the first King Crimson album came out, that people went back to scour this to look for clues of where things came from, and were completely baffled because it's not there. But actually, I think it is there. The playing is there. The Mike Giles stop-start thing he does is there. And the Frippisms are there. The Fripp technique is there already, so it is there. The songs are completely different style, obviously. That's what it is. I like it. It's alright, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is alright. I mean I should imagine there's a lot of King Crimson fans who go back to this and thought, well, Genesis, it's going to be there's something special about this, and they're going to be disappointed because it's not special, but it is very pleasant. It's not a challenging listen. I mean, I would equate this to Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
Yeah.
That sort of kind of silly, childlike.
I mean, actually, if you put it like that, I mean, there's much more of a musicality to it than early Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Who really couldn't play, whereas they know what they're doing.
This is much more listenable than Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I mean, Piper at the Gates of Dawn is probably slightly more at a tangent than this, but it's a similar sort of psychedelic sort of pop feel.
Yeah, well, Pink Floyd didn't really know what they were doing, in truth, so there'd be a reason for that. Obviously, I would imagine most people would prefer Piper, I assume.
Yeah. And there you can see Robert Fripp smiling.
Yeah, it's very strange.
There are characteristics about this album that you would never associate with Robert Fripp, such as cheerfulness, smiling, that kind of thing. There's a light. Yeah, it's whimsical. There's a lightness to it.
It's all about being silly.
You don't feel like you've got to understand it. You just got to go with it.
Yeah.
Even though
you have to accept that it's silly
and go with it. And there's some good music.
There is.
Yeah.
It's split into two stories, which I think is actually disingenuous. They're just separate songs. They wrote separately, actually, so it is just a jumble of stuff bunched on an album, so it's definitely not two concepts or anything like that. But it adds to the silliness, really. These spoken word stories.
One actually read by Robert Fripp, isn't it? The Saga of Rodney Toady.
Yeah, which is supposedly, allegedly based on a real story. Talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So yeah, it's It's good. Don't expect King Crimson though.
It isn't King Crimson.
If you're, if you're getting really into King Crimson, you think you'll give this a go because it's, it'll add something to the King Crimson story. Don't.
Yeah, because it doesn't.
Don't. You have to approach it as a complete oddity. If the kind of thing you pick up in a record store, you don't know what it is, or you take a chance on it. You've never heard of any of them, and you put it on, and you'd be pleasantly surprised. I think.
Yeah, that's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
Songs.
Track 1, North Meadow.
North Meadow. It's about Bournemouth, or the countryside around Bournemouth. Very exciting, lovely sunshine. This is a sunshine band. See what I did there? Very nice.
Folky.
Yeah.
A little bit folky, which is interesting.
Actually, it's funny you mention Pink Floyd because it's a hell of a lot better than Grantchester Meadow. I'm sure I've mentioned Grantchester Meadows before as being the most boring song in the world. It's the end of this track though. We had the spoken word story from Rodney Toady, isn't it?
I thought it was track 2 to start with, and then
you could argue it was misjudged to do the spoken word thing, but I think it emphasises the fact that this isn't supposed to be taken seriously, and there's certain points on the album where you really shouldn't. It's important to know it's comedy.
I think it also, unlike other King Crimson work, which is almost timeless in the sense like it doesn't belong to a particular time. This is very much of 1968.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
And that sort of spoken word thing puts it squarely in there, I think.
Yeah, isn't it weird how he kind of stutters it?
Yeah.
Is that part? Is he being humorous? Is it actually just? It sounds like they're not taking it seriously at all.
Well, it seems to me like he's reading it for the first time.
Yeah.
He's not quite.
But he wrote it. Yeah. So maybe it's a performance. I really don't know. Apparently, because of course they released their own rehearsal tapes, and they were recorded so well that they're sound almost as good as what was done professionally, and they were much less comfortable in the studio. And apparently, Peter Giles has said halfway through it they all thought it was a load of crap, and it was only when they recorded some of the better stuff that they started to get a bit more happy with it. So maybe they weren't taking it seriously. Perhaps they thought it was just ridiculous, and the guy was recording it wrong.
Track 2
is
Newly-weds.
Is that Fripp singing at the start? I think it is.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that. Silly Voices, song about newlyweds, young newlyweds. Don't they know they're going to throw their lives away and stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Track 3, 1 in a Million.
Real sort of Kinks type stuff. You know, they're like which Kinks type stuff. Dedicated follower of fashion.
Yeah.
But without the fashioniness and without the London centricness, which makes it better as far as I'm concerned. It frees it, and it's just lots of fun. First appearance at the Mellotron. Dun dun!
So that's significant in a way.
It certainly is.
Yeah. Track 4, Call Tomorrow.
Kind of much more like a beat ballad, an early 60s ballad, but pretty heavy in its own way, of that kind of thing. So that's okay.
Track 5, Digging My Lawn.
Yeah, this is the stuff I really like. It kind of sounds like it should be profound, but it isn't. It's just silly, and I like that. There's a man outside digging my lawn, I don't know who he is. Very Barrett, in a way, without the terrifying schizophrenia stuff. It's silly. Stop that.
It's silly.
It didn't take us long, did it?
6, Little Children.
First misfire of the album, I think. It's very meh. Wouldn't be good enough for a crooner. No comedy value. So maybe they should let that off. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's very hard to differentiate these songs because the feeling of the album is fairly uniform.
Mm.
Although there is sort of variation. So I mean, there's a bit of quite psychedelic things going on. But you're right. Track 7.
The Crukster. This is very serious. It's not. Don't take it seriously. There's some spoken word stuff in it. If you take it seriously, it is stupid and pretentious, but it's not to be taken seriously. It is fun. But it does have Fripp cross-picking technique there, on that song. That's it. That's where it came from, there.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think Crukster is widely regarded as, one of the more King Crimson...
Because it sounds experimental and...
Proto-Crimson-y, yeah. Track 8, Thursday Morning.
This is supposed to be the end of the Rodney Toady story, but of course it isn't. It's just a song. More Sunshine Band, I think.
Yeah, I really like this one.
It's good, isn't it?
Quite...
Loads of singing, loads of harmonies.
Yeah.
Very 60s.
Very pleasant. Very nice song. You don't listen to stuff like that and think, Robert Fripp. I'm sorry, you just don't.
He might even be in the choir with you.
Yeah, who's the backing band? There's
Well, I think the producer got in a load of session musicians they had a choir and they had other musicians playing on it, which I think was perhaps a mistake. They should have all done it themselves.
Because the backing singers are quite famous. They did work for Cilla Black. And
yeah. I can't remember what they're called. Number 9.
How do they know? This is the. I presume would this be side 2?
I think so. I assume so. This is
a different story.
Just George. This is the one written by Michael Giles.
Yeah. So yeah, track 9. How do they know?
I think this is heavy. This is proto-crim stuff. I think it does that, and then it goes into sort of light pop, and then it goes back again, and that's. I think it's one of the best on the album actually. It's all about the drumming.
Yeah. Oh yeah, some very good drumming on it. Yeah. The drumming is very sort of.
Yeah.
Really stands out, doesn't it? Yeah. Track 10, Elephant Song.
Like a big horn tune. That could be a single in a way, and it's very catchy, very memorable. Not a million miles from stuff on Lizard, actually, I think, but people would disagree, I'm sure.
Yeah. Track 11, The Sun is Shining.
I think this is great, but it is a comedy. It is not supposed to be taken seriously. I think perhaps not everyone would realise it's not serious. It is making fun of big ballads of the time. And Michael Giles' vocals, really funny. It's really good.
Yeah.
I really like it. Do you remember Mike Flowers?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, isn't it? Only, of course, it's not, haha, look at the 60s. It already is the 60s, and they're making a parody of it.
Track 12.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Sweet number 1. So obviously this introduces some Frippy stuff with the fast picking, cross picking stuff. It has its place in history of introducing those bits rather than being a piece of music. It isn't really a piece of music at all, is it? It's just some bits.
Yeah.
The second bit reappeared on Islands as an orchestra. The third bit, I think, is the best bit. It's kind of a jazzy, neoclassical, cool thing. So I like that.
Definitely a high point. I mean, that is the track that's most pointed to, isn't it? As a sort of
this and the next one.
Track 13, Erudite Eyes.
Best thing on the album, I think. And it's again, it's very neoclassical and very pop. What everyone talks about is it's got the Fripp sustain thing on it. So that's those styles are already established.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that really developed. He just got better at doing it. But yeah, Erudite Eyes you should listen to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like the side 2 is. I don't know. It just seems a little bit more.
It's more cohesive
than side 1.
You're right. Actually,
side 1's really pleasant.
I think it deserves 3 eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it and I like the humour. Humour does belong in music, But yeah, it's 3 eggs. It would do a disservice to lots of albums that have got 4 eggs. To give this 4 eggs, it's 3 eggs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's universally given 3 out of 5. 4 out of 5 if get into it, but I don't think it does much worse than that. And it's pretty justified. Very good.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, I hope you enjoyed that. See you next week for another review.
Stuff.